Good afternoon. My name is Brooke Michael, and I am one of the advisors at the University of Michigan-Flint. And we're going to talk to you today about our RN to DNP with MSN program. So this program, people always want to know, how does this work? So this program is for our high achieving associate's degree nurses that can skip over the BSN and go straight to a nurse practitioner program. So this is not for students that currently have their BSN or are in an RN to BSN program currently and are planning to finish out their BSN. If you are wanting a BSN, we do suggest doing our RN to BSN program, and we have an early assurance option for those students, which kind of hold your seat in our MSN or DNP program so that you can kind of have a spot saved for you once you've finished your BSN. So that's that track. This track is for those students that want to skip over the BSN and go straight into a nurse practitioner program. There are prerequisite courses that you must complete prior to starting into the graduate level coursework, and we're going to go over those on the next couple of slides. And once you're admitted into our RN to DNP with MSN program, you have up to 2 years to complete these prerequisites we're going to talk about on the next few slides. You, as I mentioned before, cannot start into graduate programs until you have completed those prerequisite classes. So even though you're admitted as an RN to DNP with MSN student, you can't, and maybe the MSN or DNP curriculum is starting up in the fall semester, you can't start into that graduate level coursework in that particular fall unless you've already completed those prerequisite classes prior to the start of that fall term. The main admission start date, again, is the fall of each semester. So you would want to try to get your prerequisites done each semester by a fall start. Now, you can start into the program in the winter semester. It doesn't speed up your process, but it does kind of lighten the load each term. So that's not quite so heavy if you were wanting kind of less than of a part-time status. Every student is admitted as a DNP student, but you do have the option to get your MSN partway through or continue on to your DNP. And once you've completed the MSN portion, you can sit for your prospective family nurse practitioner, adult gero nurse practitioner, the primary care, or the acute care, or the psychiatric, whichever track you're in. You can set for that nurse practitioner exam once you finished the MSN portion. And then, like I said, you can finish on your DNP at that point. You cannot stop at any point and get your BSN. So again, you want to keep that in mind, that if you're thinking that you would want your BSN for any upcoming jobs, then you want to look at, if you're a current associate's degree nurse, you want to look at our RN to BSN program with early assurance into graduate programs. So as I kind of mentioned in the last slide, let's talk about the tracks that you can do in our DNP with MSN. So we have the adult gero acute care nurse practitioner track. Now this track does have some requirements as far as work goes, and we're going to talk about that on the other slide. The others don't have any requirement that you have to have so many hours in a field or anything like that before you can apply, but that track does. Then of course we have our adult gero primary care, our family nurse practitioner, and our psychiatric nurse practitioner. So these are the prerequisite nursing courses that you must complete before you can start into that graduate level coursework. Keep in mind that all of these classes are also required in our RN to BSN program. So again, if you decide that you want to get your BSN, you can finish out and do our RN to BSN program, but you would need to finish the remaining curriculum in the RN to BSN to receive that BSN. You can't just take these prereqs and then take some graduate level courses and be like, well, that's good enough. It's close enough. I should be able to get my BSN. That's not how that works. You have to finish out the remaining BSN requirements in order to receive your BSN. And it's about cutting about half of the curriculum down. So some of these classes can transfer in, and you'll work with an advisor to see which ones you've already taken and potentially transferred in, and which ones you would still need to take. So English 112 is basically the equivalent of like a Comp 2 class. So that transfers in from a lot of different colleges and universities. So if you've taken the equivalent of a Comp 2, it probably transfers in as our English 112, but talk to your advisor to be sure. And then we have NSC 180 or 178, which can transfer in from a couple of different community colleges in the state. If you had it built in, it's a legal and moral decision-making class. We have nursing 300, typically doesn't transfer in. Nursing 307 can sometimes transfer in. 316, 369, and 412, those typically are not classes that transfer in, and those are classes you would take with us. Now, if you have a previous bachelor's degree in a non-nursing area, so let's say you're a student that when they were 18 years old, went to college and got their degree in business or psychology, and then you changed your mind and went back to the community college to get that associate's degree in nursing, and now you're wanting to do this RN to DNP with MSN. If that's the case with that previous bachelor's degree, it does waive your English 112 requirement. So it doesn't matter if you had the equivalent or not, that is waived. So these classes, as I mentioned before, must be completed. Every single one of them have to be successfully completed with a grade of a B or better. The only exception is English. You must complete these before you can start into graduate coursework. You can take these classes as fast or as slow as you want. We offer them online every semester at the University of Michigan-Flint, so you can go as fast or as slow as you want through those classes. But again, you want to work closely with your advisor so that they're done before you're ready to start in a grad program. So if you're wanting to start into the graduate level coursework in a fall term, you want to work closely with your advisor to get those done prior to that particular fall term. So why should you choose the University of Michigan-Flint for your MSN or DNP? So we do have highly trained nursing faculty that are available to students outside the normal class hours. We have flexibility that our faculty are willing to know that you're a working nurse and that you may need to speak to them outside normal business hours. We also have research opportunities with our faculty, so you can work directly with our faculty on a research project, which is really big. And then it is a University of Michigan degree, so you are getting those same benefits and same alumni benefits if you were a graduate of Ann Arbor, Dearborn, or Flint, and you have the same diploma signed by the same people. It is a widely recognized and respected degree for the quality of its graduates. So when people see that degree, they're going to know that you're well educated. They're going to know that you didn't just buy your degree, just paid your dues and your money and got a degree, that you actually learn things and are highly educated. And that's world renowned. And people know that across the country, across the world, that if you have a University of Michigan degree, you're a well-educated nurse practitioner. We have online formats for our classes, so your classwork will all be online, and we are accredited by the CCNE. So that's also just showing you that we are highly educated people, that we have that CCNE accreditation. And then upon completing your MSN, you are eligible to set for your respective exams. So like I said before, as soon as you get to the finishing of that MSN portion, you can set for your nurse practitioner exam, whichever track you're in. And then you can go on for your DNP, or if you need to stop out for a while and work as a nurse practitioner with your MSN, you can do it at that point and come back and reapply for our DNP at a later time. As long as you take classes with us within a year of finishing your MSN portion, you do not have to reapply to be in our DNP. You're automatically going on through to finishing your DNP, and it's an only additional 15 credits after your MSN to get your DNP. We do have an 86 to 100% pass rate. So that is really a big deal for students, because it shows how well educated you are in those different tracks that the majority of our students are passing on that first time. And we have clinical practicums that are completed in your area. So again, there's no clinicals in those prerequisite classes, but in your MSN and DNP curriculum, there will be clinicals, and you will complete those in your area. You don't have to come to Flint for those clinicals. So on a regular weekly basis, you don't have to come to Flint. You're going to be just coming to Flint about 3 to 5 times a year for the MSN or DNP portion. So let's talk with some common questions that a lot of students want to know. So when can I start? So prospective students wanting to get started on those prerequisite classes earlier can start and be admitted into our RN to BSN program, so that you can get into those prereqs and get them going. And then you can apply to the RN to DNP with MSN later on. Now we start fall, winter, spring, or summer. So there is 4 different times that you can admit throughout the year in the RN to BSN to start into those prereqs. But just as a side note, you'll see this down there is no guarantee that just because you admit to the RN to BSN and you start into those prereqs that you're going to be admitted into the RN to DNP with MSN program. So keep that in mind. That's not a guarantee. That's a risk you're taking if you're wanting to try to speed up the process as far as that goes. And, get those prereqs done sooner so that you can get started into that fall term for the curriculum. You will start into the MSN or DNP curriculum after you have completed all your prereqs, as I've mentioned before. The main start date is fall, and we admit for a winter semester as well, but it does not speed up your graduation. We talked about that earlier. Is this degree University of Michigan degree? Yes, absolutely it is. It's the same diploma signed by the same people, same alumni benefits. We already kind of went over that. Do you need to take the GRE? No, you do not need to take the GRE for our program. And then we already talked about this. Will I get my BSN partway through? No, you will not get your BSN. You will have an MSN or DNP once you've completed all those courseworks, but there's not a place where you can stop out and be like, okay, I did enough BSN or MSN coursework. I should be able to get my BSN. That's not how that works. If you think you want your BSN, again, you want to do the RN to BSN program. Do I have to come to Flint during the prerequisite coursework? No. So those prereq classes we talked about, no, you do not have to come to Flint for any of those. Once you are in the graduate programs, as I mentioned before, you're going to come to Flint about 3 to 5 times a year to basically once a semester on average to do a checkoff. Typically, that's what it is. Can I go part-time? Yes. When you apply to the MSN and DNP portion, you're going to pick part-time or full-time track at the time of the application. So you can pick part-time at that time if that's what you would like to do. What pathways can I complete? We already talked about those. You've got family nurse practitioner, acute care, adult gero, and psychiatric. And so how long will it take? Okay, for the prerequisites, you can go through those as fast or as slow as you want. So you can do those in as little as 2 semesters if you really wanted to. It would be more like a full-time pace, but you could do them in 2 semesters. So that's something that you could do, but most students take a little bit longer to complete those prerequisite classes. So that's something you could do if you wanted to. So once you've gotten the prereqs done though, and you're starting into graduate programs, the MSN portion, so that's where you can sit for that nurse practitioner. If you're at part-time, it's 2 years, 8 months, full-time, 1 year, 8 months. With the DNP, when you're adding on to the DNP, so you're finishing out, it's about 15 more credits after the MSN. So the total of it for part-time would be 3 years, 8 months, for full-time, 2 years, 8 months. So it's basically 15 more credits after your MSN for your DNP. It's basically adding about a year to finish off your DNP. Again, if you start in a winter term, it does not speed up your graduation, but does lighten the load by a few semesters. Can I work full-time? During the prerequisites, yes. So like I said before, you're going through those as fast or slow as you want. So you just balance that work, school life, how you need to. But once you start into the MSN or the DNP curriculum, it depends if you're full-time or part-time. So if you're a full-time student, we do not recommend going to school full-time and working full-time. That is just a lot to take on. If you are a part-time student, it is potentially possible to work full-time. But again, you've got to know what your other obligations are outside of school and work, what family obligations you may have, or other outside obligations that may take up your time. So you need to find that work-life balance with school. How many classes do I take each semester? During the prerequisites, you can go as fast or as slow as you want. A part-time student, once you start into graduate programs, is going to look like about 2 classes a semester, and a full-time student on average is about 3 to 4 classes a semester. And can I take time off? Again, during those prereqs, absolutely. But once you start into the MSN and DNP coursework, you will not want to do that because those classes are cohorted or built upon each other. So you have to have the content in this class before you can go to this class, before you can go to this class, before you can go to this class. And those classes are only offered 1 time a year. So, if you take time off or switch back and forth between part-time and full-time, it could delay your graduation up to a year because you may have to wait until those classes are offered again. So we do not suggest doing that, but it is an option if you absolutely need to. Will you help with clinical placement once you're in the MSN and DNP? Absolutely, we will. We have a clinical coordinator. Her name is Peggy. She will help you find clinical placement in your area. Now, you do work closely with Peggy. It's not that you just sit back and she does everything. You know, we always recommend for you to look for a site because again, if you have a connection with somebody, you're going to more than likely get a better experience because you know that person, you know that they're a good, you know, DO or nurse practitioner. And so they're going to be good to follow around. So, you know, we recommend that. But if you don't have anyone or don't know anyone in your area, Peggy will help you find clinical placement, but it'll still be your responsibility to help, you know, potentially get things signed or reach out to people, things like that. So, sorry, my slide's not going. Oop, there we go. So admissions requirements. So the RN to DNP with MSN, you need a valid nursing license to apply, and you need to have a 3.5 or better GPA in your last 60 credits. So what they're going to do is they're going to look at your last 60 credits, which would be the majority of your ADN program. So if you are one of those students with a previous bachelor's degree, you don't have to worry if maybe your freshman year you didn't do so well before you started into your ADN program. That's okay. They're going to mainly focus on those last 60 credits. Also, to keep in mind, if you have already started into those prerequisite classes, like we talked about before, you could apply as an RN to BSN student, start into those prereq classes. Those classes, if they're completed at the time of application, would also be counted as your last 60 credits and would show the committee that you are capable of completing university level coursework. You do need a B or better in all of those prerequisite classes we talked about on a previous slide. And there are additional requirements for the adult gero acute care. We're going to talk about those right here. So the adult gero acute care does have some additional admissions requirements. One of those is you do need 1 year full-time experience, which would be around 2,000 hours in 12 months as a registered nurse in a critical care unit. And so it's going to talk to you about what those different units would look like and which ones they can't look like. So if this is a track you're interested in, you're going to want to look at your experience to see if you met those requirements. On top of that, you have some certification options that you need. You need ACLS, BLS, and then the other thing to keep in mind is that your first and third clinical nursing 861 and 865 have to be completed in the state of Michigan. There's no exception to that. So if you are an out-of-state student thinking about doing the acute care, you would need to accommodate living in the state during those classes. So keep those things in mind. Again, these requirements are only for the acute care track. If you're doing family nurse practitioner, the gero primary, or the psychiatric, you only have to pay attention to that last slide's requirements, which was that GPA requirements. So application RN to DNP with MSN, we suggest applying, as I mentioned before, as an RN to BSN student first, just because that way we can review your transcripts, tell you which of those general education or nursing classes you've already transferred in. And then it also gives you that opportunity to start into the classes early if you want. Even if you don't want to start into the classes early, totally fine. It still gives an official evaluation of your transcript so we can tell you what you still have to take. Then you would book an appointment with one of us and then make sure you meet the application deadlines for the MSN portion. So for the RN to MSN portion, you need to meet the fall start deadline, which was February 1st is the early deadline and March 31st is the final deadline. And then we have the winter start, which is January, and it is an August 15th deadline. And it says spring start, but that is only for certificates. So please ignore that spring start deadline. So how do you apply as an RN to BSN? So this is, again, a step you do not have to take. There's no guarantee if you take this step that you will be in our MSN or DNP, but we do recommend it to get those transcripts evaluated officially. And also if you want to start into the prereqs. You'll just go to umflint.edu/apply. The application is free. It's good for a year. Click the transfer student button and the first time user creation. And then you're going to send in transcripts from all colleges attended to our main campus. So if you're doing it through the mail, there's the mail. If you're doing an electronic transcript, you can do it at that email address. During this time, we can't admit you with an unofficial transcript. So you can send in an unofficial transcript to start and then send an official in at a later date. And so once you've done that, if you don't want to do that step, that's fine. You don't have to. But even after you've done that step, you still need to apply as a graduate student. So if you attended one of our webinars, the application fee was waived. But if you're watching this video presentation because you were unable to attend, there is a $55 application fee. Then you will click the first time user creation button and pick the graduate programs. Again, this is for graduate programs that are into BSN application was free. So steps to application for the RN to DNP with MSN. You can find all of this on our website. So that's where I suggest going, because all of these, you can click them in this PowerPoint presentation, but you can also find them at the website. You see it in the yellow bar at the top. You do need to turn in your supplemental application. Like I said before, sending in official transcripts. You need a resume, a copy of your nursing license. You do need a professional goal statement. And the most important thing is you're going to see bullet points underneath that where you see purpose, reasons, professional, etc. Those bullet points are part of a rubric that is graded on your goal statement. So make sure that when you're writing your goal statement, you speak to each one of those bullet points. Because if you skip over the first bullet point, purpose for undertaking or continuing graduate studies, if you just skip over that for some reason, then you'll miss all the points for that. So make sure you speak to each of those bullet points. You do need 3 letters of recommendation from any of the combination of the following. It can be a faculty from a recent nursing program, a supervisor in an employment setting, or an advanced practice registered nurse, physician's assistant, MD or DO. So you don't need 1 from each bullet point. You just need to have 3 total, and they have to come from a combo of that. It could be 2 faculty and 1 supervisor or whatever. It doesn't matter the combo, as long as they're one of those categories and there's 3 total of them. They could all be faculty for that matter. It doesn't matter. And so you may need a phone appointment, and then there's some additional documentation that you need to turn in if you are either an international student or if you are doing the acute care. So booking an appointment, you're going to visit our website once you have applied and been admitted, either as the RN to BSN to do that early review of classes and potentially start into the prereqs, or after you're admitted as an RN to DNP with MSN student. So you would visit our website to book an appointment. You can go to umflint.edu/online and click the book an appointment button. We do offer face-to-face advising in Flint, Lansing, and Port Huron. Otherwise, we have available online, phone, and virtual time slots on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. So tuition and scholarships, when you're doing the undergraduate prerequisite classes, it's at the undergraduate tuition cost, which is right now at $4.97 per credit hour. For graduate programs, once you start into those graduate program classes, it doesn't matter if it's the MSN or the DNP classes, the tuition rate is $7.34 currently. Again, that can always change depending on how fast or slow you go through the program. We offer the nurse faculty loan forgiveness program, which is a great program for students that are interested in becoming a preceptor or a faculty after they complete this program. So once you've completed your MSN or DNP and you decide you want to work as a faculty or a preceptor for us, then you could have up to 85% of your loans forgiven. So it's a really great program. You can go to our website right there and get more information and fill out the form if that's something you're interested in. We do have all kinds of other scholarship opportunities. We suggest visiting those different websites to see which ones you may qualify for. So these are the different advisors that you would work with during your prerequisite classes. So again, I am Brooke. You could also work with Tiffany, Stephanie, or Jennifer, whichever one of us has a time slot available for you. That's who you pick. It doesn't matter. It's not like you're designated to one advisor or the other. We can all work with you at any point throughout your program. So we thank you so much for attending our webinar today. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to one of us on that last slide with any questions, and have a wonderful rest of your day.